I took a small break between Gap Inc. and Sephora.
Okay.
I was fortunate that Sephora let me and listened to my need for the break. So I actually was hired, a little. I left Gap Inc. partially because I was doing a house remodel, which is not a reason to leave. But if anyone has ever done a house remodel, they know things can spiral massively out of control. And it might actually be cheaper for you to quit your job for a little while and manage the cost.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Orita Podcast. I am very excited to have Amy Carr here. Amy and I met, 6 months ago. Her background is incredible, so I won't go too far. I'll let her kind of walk through everything. I'm Aaron Schwartz, one of the founders of Orita. We build AI customer segments for a bunch of brands, but today we're not going to be talking about Orita. We're going to talk about Amy and her career and what she's starting up right now in the wine space, which is so cool. And so I'm excited to dive in there. We might talk about AI. Who knows? Amy, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Love to have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Amy Carr. I've had a long career in marketing and CRM and e-commerce and a whole bunch of other things on the kitchen sink, as I like to say. But I had kind of an unusual career path. Some people say careers are ladders. Mine is not just a jungle gym. It's like multiple playgrounds in different cities. I think I started my career in a very traditional financial role, being a public accountant for Arthur Andersen, which if you're listening to this and you don't know what we're talking about, that's okay. They went by the wayside 20 years ago after, an issue in the press. And, but I went back to business school to get my MBA, knowing I didn't want to be a public accountant. And I studied entrepreneurship and marketing and finance, which every business needs finance, and even more so today. And I think that's important because as I navigated a career post business school through big box retailers, Gap Inc., then Sephora, doing marketing, the shift that happened was that marketing became very financially driven. And, I think we might have swung the pendulum a little too far. I'm glad it's kind of coming back to the middle, but having a financial background actually helped me be a better marketer. And I don't think you hear a lot of people say that. And I think that's part of the reason CRM and performance marketing today, it's a real balance between the right and the left side of your brain. It needs to be creative, but it needs to make money. And now more than ever, we can pay attention to that. So I left Sephora because I really wanted to do my own thing. And I started a makeup business, which probably requires a cocktail to tell you the whole story. And it was great. My partner and I had a lot of fun. We built a brand. We were in 850 retailers, including 550 Targets and 220 Ultas. And it ended up not panning out the way we wanted to do it. And we made a very hard and difficult decision to close shop and return money to investors, which is equally as hard to do as growing the business. I think making those tough calls is, really something a lot of brands have a hard time doing. And unfortunately, they can waste a lot of money and kind of not make those hard calls. And so we made the hard call and shut it down, return money to investors. And then I moved on to ThirdLove. And I loved ThirdLove. It's a great brand. If you haven't heard about it, it's bras and undies for women, and they're extremely comfortable and they fit incredibly well. And I was the CMO and CDO there for 3+ years. So I left at the end of last year, in part to take a break, which I do tell a lot of people sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. And I was on the side helping my family launch a wine business, very small, 400 cases to start. We're 2 weeks to go. So launching May 1st, it's called Hours, little H, capital O, wine to be enjoyed at all hours, and from our family to yours. So lots of fun puns there. And I think it's very different launching a business for family reasons when the end goal is not to sell or to make money or to go public. I mean, yes, we want to make money, but that's not the end game. The end game is to preserve land and have a viable business on property that my great grandfather bought in the early 1900s to, continue the tradition that we have. So, and now I'm doing a little fractional work for another company. I can publicly say it. I'm a fractional CMO for a company called Pedal. It's a wearable technology for women. Um, First wearable technology company built 100% on women's data. I'm learning so much about women's health that I never knew, including that women were never allowed in FDA trials pre 1993, which I think is fascinating. So I'm excited to help them launch and get to market. And just really excited about the founder. This is not his first rodeo. He's already done a big company, and this is for him a passion project and a mission. And that's as I come on the other side of the things I want to do in my life. They need to help our population, help our society, help our culture move things forward and have a good purpose. And so I hope to get a few more companies like this where it's really changing the changing the face of women's health or doing something good in the world that, we can all really feel proud of.
Awesome. I've so many follow-up questions, and I'm reticent to like lead us down the wrong path, but let me actually start on the career side,
Yeah.
because you said something about the value of taking a break and sometimes slow down to speed up. I've had the fortune to do that a couple of times where for me, the framing was always, if I choose this thing, it's not choosing against the other options today, but it's choosing against all future possible
Yeah.
options, right? Because like
Yeah.
when you commit to something, you're not disappearing after a week or a month or a quarter. Um, is this the first time you've actually taken that break, or had you gone like kind of like Arthur Anderson, your Sephora, your brand, dot dot dot.
I took a small break between Gap Inc. and Sephora.
Okay.
I was fortunate that Sephora let me and listened to my need
Mm,
for the break. So I actually was hired, a little. I left Gap Inc. partially because I was doing a house remodel, which is not a reason to leave. But if anyone has ever done a house remodel, they know things can spiral massively out of control, and it might actually be cheaper for you to quit your job for a little while and manage the cost escalation. And Sephora was I joined Sephora right a month or two after I left Gap Inc. But I asked for them to let me have my break, and I took 4 months before I actually started a job. And it was an incredible time for me to remember who I am, reconnect with my family. I had three little
mm.
kids at the time, and it really like got me jazzed to go back to work and really want to like put the hard work in.
I love it. And then at this point, you mentioned obviously you're doing hours, but you're also, as you mentioned, just like as of today, starting this fractional
Yes.
side. Is there an ambition to do fractional? How do you think about it? Because like you could go do 1,000 things. You could be the CMO for so many companies, or I'm sure
Mhm.
take on any other role you wanted. What is the draw right now of fractional?
I think it gives me more flexibility, and I think I'm going to be very careful about what I step into. This job may turn into something full time, but I really believe in like trying it out, making sure you're a culture fit, making sure you work really well. I think when you join an executive team, you are effectively getting married to them. And so, you wouldn't get married on the first date, right? And you got to meet the parents, the whole thing. So I think, for me, this fractional thing offers me some flexibility. um, I still have 3 kids. They're much older now, but, I wanna make sure that I can still do the things I need to do to be a good mom,
I like it.
um, and still work.
Thanks for explaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I joined Orita, DB and Zach had done their consulting business for a long time. And then they kind of figured out, this is a software business. And I was brought
Yeah.
in and I spent a month as wearing the co-founder hat before I signed anything. Cause I was like, I would rather give you a month and not get a
Yeah.
dollar or a share just to go really make sure it's the right fit. So I think people undervalue just like whenever you're joining that you can actually like slow things down to really make
Yeah.
sure it's good on both sides. All right, thanks for going down the
Yeah.
career and the therapy path. We can now go back to
I
data.
can
Okay, then
really,
I like this.
you know.
I'm thinking about rereading How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen and Listen So Little Kids.
Oh, I
I
love
know.
that book.
I know I need
I
to.
love that.
My kids are too old for me to be reading this, but I'm like, I think I need to try harder. So, all right,
Yeah.
we'll dive in a little bit. I actually wanted to go back because you said something not surprising, but different from how I anticipated you describing the Arthur Anderson. Is I thought it was going to be, hey, look, I'm good at analytics and I can go really deep in the data, but you actually mentioned it on the financial side. Can you go a little bit further? I know you're not saying not analytics, but walk us through how you think about maybe what has helped you be such a good marketer and what are the things that you're seeing that somebody who hasn't been versed in the financial side might be
Yeah.
missing?
I mean, at the end of the day, businesses have to make money. And we can't kid ourselves that, even if it's a mission driven, purpose driven organization or a not for profit, you can't lose money. And
Right.
I think for a number of years, and Aaron, you know this, 2000, let's call it 15 to 21, people just big companies were losing money and investors were still throwing money at it. And what I think was interesting about being an audit background, and most people don't, I wasn't a tax accountant,
Mhm.
which a lot of people is what they think of. A public accountant, actually, a public auditor really goes in and looks at all aspects of the business, and they're looking at different business processes, making sure that you have controls, making sure the money is flowing through and that you get a really good sense of how a P&L works. And I think every executive has to know that. You can be, the head of product, and by product I mean tech, or the head of design, but you have to know how to P&L works. And so, I think being in public accounting, work for Anderson, I did a small drive by with JP Morgan. Really just, it got me financially minded. It also, I am highly analytical. I do have, that is, I would say one of my superpowers is, being able to take a lot of data and digest it. And I think that's even more important in every part of business today. I can't hear you, Aaron.
Sorry, I was coughing, so I'm mute.
Oh, oh,
Well,
oh.
no, such a great question. When uh, when you think about marketers today, right? So you want that analytical grounding. Um, and you can reflect on previously or even how you're thinking about this with Petal or with Hours. How do you go do customer discovery as well? And how do you bring in that qualitative aspect? So it's yes, we need to hit the P&L, but obviously big part of the marketer's depth of customer understanding and telling the story that she wants to hear. How do you find that balance? Or yeah, what is your approach?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of journey maps. I'm a big fan of
Mm,
consumer research. I did a lot of that at Gap and
mm,
Sephora, and we did that before we launched PYT Beauty, the makeup brand I launched. And to some extent, we did that at ThirdLove too. And I'm just a huge fan of both qualitative
mm,
and quantitative research on the customer side. There's a million segments you can go after, and there's
right.
a million people you can market to. And if you are not very clear on your message and who you're going after, it can become very whitewashed, and you're just spreading the message too thin. I think in terms of performance marketing specifically, and what I like to say is you probably have a big overarching customer you're going after, and then within that big broader segment, um, you have very niche elements, niche segments, because in the performance side of the business, you can go buy that. And, I can, one of the examples I think I've used before is at ThirdLove, we obviously, all women could wear our bras,
Mhm.
really, but that's not your customer target. When we launched a specific bra last year that was around temperature regulating, we really picked a very specific niche segment because we could go buy that in the CRM and in the performance marketing side. And I think that's super important to understand how those come together in marketing and then get translated into sort of what you're buying. And then you have to follow that up with the KPIs, right? So you have to be watching all those metrics come in to make sure you're not losing money.
Understood. And so for you as a marketer, it's not just top line. It ends up being the best marketers are thinking contribution margin and repeat purchase rate and LTV across the board.
LTV, yeah. And I think it's really hard to measure, and it's easier in what I will call replenishable businesses.
Mm.
So beauty. You run out of your eyebrow pencil on average, probably every 6 weeks. We had it down to a number at Sephora, a day, or mascara, you replace it. You're not doing that in more of these non-replenishable businesses. Like, you don't buy bras every 4 to 6 weeks. You don't, um, I hope you buy wine. I hope that becomes a replenishable. At least that's a consumable. So I
Even
know
if you don't
it's,
drink it, just collect it. That's fine.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
cool. You're
yeah,
working
yeah.
along. Yeah, that's right.
So it's different in different businesses, depending on whether they're a consumable or replenishable.
Understood. One of the things that you and I, when we first met, we were talking about, and this is very much my opinion, and so I want to advise you, and I want some help here. Is it feels like today within brands there is a performance acquisition flow and there's a retention flow, and those two almost don't meet. In the performance side, what I've seen a lot is if I can deliver you $1 of profit, you'll pay me 99 cents. But in the retention side, it's SaaS budget, we're fixed. You could give me
Yeah.
$10 billion, but I'm so sorry I can't pay you a penny. Is that something that's always been like help me unpack that
hmm
maybe and like understand that less about like not worried about like the software side, but more like what are the best brands doing and how should they be thinking about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll add one more element. I think there's three parts to a marketing
Mm,
budget and a marketing strategy. I think there's the brand side. I think there's the performance side, and I think there's the CRM side. And if you think about performance being mostly to drive new customers,
mm,
you are also, I think the retention side has largely been email and SMS for many, many years. As we continue to scale these channels, like, less and less people open their email. And, even a consumer knows, like, it's going to, the promotion tab on your Gmail. So you're not half the time not even looking at it. Um, and so I think with, and the reason I say that is it's gotten harder to reach your existing customer and get her to pay attention. So what has over the last couple of years happened is some of that performance budget has leaked into retention. And, I think people are more and businesses are more open to investing there because they know they can't get her or him through the retention budget that the traditional retention things. Um, I do think, and then I think brand is really hard to measure. And we can try 10 ways to Sunday, but everyone has to kind of hold hands. You have to hold hands with your CFO and know that, like, it's, you got to keep investing in brand, even if you can't actually see a one-to-one return on that. On the retention side, I do think since a lot of email, SMS, traditional retention channels have largely become so cheap and free in terms of an additional send.
mm,
Um, and you're buying a software service. So you're buying Klaviyo, you're buying Braze, you're buying whatever software program, the software service from email and SMS, Attentive. For SMS, I think that ends up flowing into the software budget, which is largely fixed in a CFO's mind. Um, the acquisition side of the house, it's always been this mantra to, like, push if you're scaling, if you're
mm,
seeing the return, if you're driving new customers, keep going, keep going. We might not make money on the first order, but the money will come on the second or third. And I think that's just been a kind of a mindset for many, many years.
It's almost like
Largely pushed by media companies. Let's be clear, Aaron. Like, I think Meta and Google have done very good jobs at working with brands, telling them they can push and scale.
I hear you. Yeah, I haven't run a meta budget in a long time. When I was running a brand, it was free to go. Like people would sign up for our group or our page, and then we could just message them all, and it was very
Yeah,
easy back in the day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When it's interesting, kind of dovetailed into brand a little bit, and it's like the CMO and the CFO just kind of need to hold hands and be like, look, just trust me. What are the things that make it easier to really go prove out that you should invest in brand, or like what are things that are harder as you think about it?
Aaron, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. My AirPods are picking up something that I can't figure it out.
Hopefully, it's a very fun podcast.
Give me 1 second.
You're great.
Can you hear it?
No, but I'm gonna make guesses about what it is. Your volume is okay if you just want to take them out too.
Listening to music. I don't know where it's coming from.
The question I'm curious about is it good music?
Give me okay. I'm back. I don't know where I must have picked up
Was it
somebody in my house's music.
was it good music? That's all we want to
Yeah.
hear. All right. I was, let me ask you a very quick one about
Yeah,
brand.
yeah.
Any advice for people who are like, hey, look, you actually need to trust me? Like, what is it that will give you the case that you should keep investing in brand? Is it just convince the founder and be like, look, you built this company for a reason, like your brand matters? Or like,
I do think you see a decline in sales over
mm,
time if you stop investing in brand.
sure.
Um, it's hard if you walk in and you're growing
Yeah.
to a brand that's, growing really fast, and you might say, I don't need to invest in brand.
Mm,
It's not. Um, I think there's a number of great brands out there that you can use as analogs, right? And
mm,
so, I don't think great brands like Nike, they don't stop investing in brand, right? They keep it going. Sephora continues to invest in brand. And I think it's harder for small businesses. It's
mm,
really hard when you are in a smaller business to put that leap of faith because your dollars are really fixed and it becomes more tricky.
mm,
Sephora obviously it's a it's a big company. Nike's a big company. Um, and they can make it work in the sense because a lot of these brand things are expensive. The initial ticket is high.
yeah.
And so I think that's tricky.
Um, I want to go back to the retention discussion for a
Yeah.
minute. You also have done loyalty in your past, and now you're
Hmm.
going to like smaller companies, including your own. And you talked about email and SMS, and it's like there's so much out there. Have you seen any changes in how companies are thinking about loyalty or loyalty tools or like community building or anything else to kind of improve the retention in that customer journey?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of loyalty programs
Mm,
for a number of reasons. One, you just get people to commit a little bit more, to
mm,
put a little bit of skin in the game. Two, you get their data. I mean, I'm not going to kid anyone that like loyalty programs really often become the conduit to collecting data at a customer level.
mm,
um, I would say, in the wine industry, wine clubs are ubiquitous. Like everyone does that. And so, I think that will be an easy ad. I hope everyone joins my wine club because that's the easiest way to do sales. I think in apparel, it's a little trickier. Um, I think in beauty, what we saw at Sephora was really kind of helping create communities in the sense of I have and you can I have very fine hair, help me find other people that have hair like me and what products do they use. Or I have fair skin, I have blue eyes. I'm using me as the example here. Um, tell me what other people are doing that people like me. I
mm,
think that helps a lot in the sense of using loyalty programs to help create communities and find people like them.
mm.
I don't think a lot of customer companies do this.
Yeah. I hear you. I feel like I had a discussion the other day about like, for some companies, subscription was a thing, but it's actually like just membership, like getting people to put in a little and give them a lot of value. It could be time with the
Yeah.
founder, like whatever the quote unquote value is, right? Like get
The
closer to
value
the
exchange.
story,
Yeah.
get some swag. Yeah.
Yeah.
To bring
And
people in.
you have to have a value exchange because your data should not be for free. And if somebody wants to collect it,
Yeah.
they need to, if a company wants to collect it, they need to give you something in return.
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you a little bit about technology stacks. So you've
Yeah.
been at some of the biggest companies, you're at startups, you're at everything in between. But I remember from our discussion, you've also been on the advisory board of a bunch of different
Hmm.
technology companies. Where do you think if you're running a brand today, right? So like 10, $20 million brand, right? And kind of growing, how should you be thinking about your technology stack? Is it, hey, we should actually go experiment because there's all this new cool AI stuff? Is it, guys, just keep it simple, get the basics? Like what are kind of the frameworks you might advise another brand owner on?
Yeah. I think simple for sure has been a mantra of, don't overcomplicate things. Technologies don't always talk to each other. You know this. Like, and sometimes you can end up with a stack that isn't efficient because you spent a lot of time maintaining it or building connectors to it. I think simple is better. I think if you're going to be a lot of small brands are on Shopify, there's a number of easy technology partners that work great with Shopify and it doesn't require any coding. And I think that for smaller brands, that is huge. And, you know, in terms of AI, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but it is going to turn the tech companies up. It's going to turn the tech stacks upside down. And AI is going to do a lot more than we thought it would do. But what I think is going to happen in AI, and I think a lot of AI and a lot of technology has been built for bigger brands. I think Shopify, Klaviyo, some of these other companies that came out were going after the small brands. That largely hasn't happened. I mean, most companies, and I say this with love and support of Google Sheets, run their business off Google Sheets and Excel. And I do think AI is going to play a role in helping bring technology to the mid-market and the smaller companies that have yet been able to streamline their businesses through technology stacks, because it just wasn't built for them. It was too expensive to build technology for those companies. I think AI is going to 100% change that game. So for small and mid-sized companies, I think you're about to get a whole bunch of more technology to help run your business. In terms of marketing tech stacks, I think we are a little bit ahead of the game from business technology that I think has been slower to go after that small and mid-market. But again, like I go back to keep it simple, make sure you can operate it without consultants, developers, and really use some experimentation on AI. I think where I see AI very much right now playing a key role is helping comb through analytics and provide real actionable insights. And you can do this in a very easy way. And, a lot of these tools plug right into data sets wherever you host your data set, be it a Snowflake or a small Shopify. People host data in Shopify too. And I think you can just plug it right in. You can start to get some real actionable insights, and it can free up your analysts to really dive into really other problems. And I don't think it's been very expensive to hire analysts in the small and medium businesses because, they can make a lot of money going to work for the big players. So I think that's one area. I also think AI is going to change the face of creative, and I think that's going to be a big area we're going to see.
I'm curious about that. How do you feel about that? Is that good, bad? Is it you're already seeing it and it's speeding up from a prototyping, but like you still want that like expert designer who knows the brand to make the final decision? Like, what are you seeing happening?
I think it's going to be experimental. People are doing it, they're using it. I would say the biggest nightmare for a CMO of the last 10 years has been, how do I create enough content? Just keeping up with social, keeping up with organic social, paid social, keeping up with the content needs. It was expensive. It was exhausting. So I think in that regard, AI, generative AI will be a big help. I did ads in Pomeli. You can just throw, stuff into Pomeli and it'll spit you out some ads. And, of the 20 ads, like 4 of them are probably great, and 16 are probably going to go to the editing floor. But I do think, that's been a great aspect of AI in terms of helping marketers have more content. I think what, in my opinion, is going to happen is particularly in the creative space is authentic, real creative is now going to come at a premium. And I say this more as like a human race. You can have ChatGPT write a novel right now, but it might be a little wonky. You should pay more money for one written by a real person. They're going to have an AI-based movie, 100% AI generated, but we should not recognize those with the same level that we recognize movies made by real people with real actors, with real producers. So that I think there'll be a premium on authentic, real creative.
One of the things we think a lot about is the fact that there's amazing tools popping up all the time. And so
Yeah.
they're going to be more creative. And then there's also more channels. And this isn't something where it's like, ThirdLove's an incredible brand, right? It's not just like, oh, ThirdLove that already had high quality content is going to have more of it. It's United Airlines that you said bad content is going to have great content, and US Bank is going to have content, and
Yeah.
your local and the nonprofit. And it's just going to be overwhelming. And so the
Agree.
question then, as we think about it, is like, who's actually addressable? Like, how do you get somebody's attention in a sea of like a lot of noise?
I'm going to go back to
Um,
brand.
I think that's it. It's really interesting, right? And so
I
like if your content doesn't support your brand, you're going to have the same issue.
And I think we're going to go, gosh, I hope we're going to go back to in real life, more in real life
Mm,
situations. I think people with stores, I'm very excited to watch ThirdLove build out stores over the next
mhm,
couple years. And I think in real life moments are going to be what puts a premium on things. And I I hope that's what happens. I think there's going to be a return to a little bit of nostalgia. I
mhm.
do think, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm hopeful because I have a 12-year-old. I hope we start to put massive limits on these big social media agencies. Because
Mhm.
it's too much and they it's targeted at children in a lot of ways. And I hope when that pendulum shifts, maybe the content comes down. Who
Go,
knows?
go, going back to the therapy session, we do feel lucky.
Yes.
So our girls are almost 10 and 8.
You're
And
gonna be yeah, it should be, and I hope for my 12-year-old, that shift should have happened by
mhm,
the
I
time
think it's
our kids are.
happened. I think we feel lucky because 5, 6 years ago, it was like, yeah, take a phone, go. And
Yeah.
there's
No,
no
I have
change
17 2
until 8.
17-year-olds, and, you know,
Do they know
I
your
lo
name still? They still love you though.
yes, they do, but, it was a second full-time job
Yeah.
monitoring the phone, and,
Love that.
I could talk hours on that.
Maybe the last thread I just want to pull on because like you've built awesome organizations, and again, you are an advisor to or friend of so many others. How do you think the shape of a marketing organization is going to change in the brand ecosystem, or what are the skills that you're going to expect the like next batch of junior marketers to bring? Is it, hey, look, it used to be a 70-person org and now it's going to be 7 because we're going to be outsourcing, or is it, I don't know, like what do you anticipate changing?
Sorry.
Awesome.
The California bloom is real.
I know it. I know it.
I think it's a good question. I think about 10 years ago, marketing organizations started looking for analytical people. And that was a big shift from, I would say, where for many, many years it was agency based. It was much more of marketers were really just on the creative side. And then, over the last 20 years, it's kind of shifted to be more analytical. I think the next wave is going to be kids that know how to use an AI because I think you're going to have to be a good marketer. And I think you probably can do more with less people. I worry about entry level jobs in general, like not just in marketing organizations, because there's a lot of stuff that can be done through AI now. I do worry about that in general at all. I worry for our kids coming out of college, Aaron, like what are they gonna be doing?
Mm.
Because I think a lot of these entry level jobs are gonna go away. And so I think the the jobs that will stay are really the ones around strategy, relationship building, problem solving, but I think AI will solve a little bit of that,
Mhm.
a lot of that lower level marketing, those
So
marketing
a big
jobs.
piece of it is like you're looking for AI native folks and like you, yes, analytical and now this as well.
Yeah.
Maybe like a slightly different thread. How do you think brands should be thinking about how the shopper journey is changing?
Ugh.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, the first big shift, and we already see it, it's already here, is that the LLMs are going to be the search agent. And, if you're a marketer and you're not hearing the words AEO, GEO, and you are making a huge pivot from SEO, especially in these digitally native brands, to AEO, and that's agent engine optimization. So really figuring out how you partner with ChatGPT, partner with Anthropic, partner with, the big players here in showing up in their recommendations. That's the first place, and we're already seeing that. The second place I think websites are going to be very different and e-commerce is going to be very different. And if you look to what's going on in China, as you know, often outside the US in some regards is ahead of us. There really are not a lot of e-commerce sites. There are aggregators and e-commerce sites are content providers. And, I think whether, Amazon does that or not, I think people are not going to shop across a whole bunch of different websites. I'll go back to they're going to shop in store in real life and they're going to shop with aggregators and the website's going to have to play a different role. A real place for the customer to learn about the brand, to trust the brand, to get more information.
Mhm.
I don't know that it's going to be the place it's been for many years, which is the conversion place.
Mm. It's interesting. I mean, the
And I
aggregators. analogous to like a big retailer in a big mall anyways. So yeah.
And I think websites have to look like stores. You have to be able to come to the site and talk to this digital agent and ask them questions. And we've had a lot of point solutions developed. Customer service software has developed a point solution. Meta has their own point solution. Different companies have a point solution for an agent on your site. That's going to come together. You're going to have one agent when you show up to the site. And I don't know, maybe 20 years from now, it's just a question box. How can I help you today? Like you just walked in a store. How can I help you today?
I like it. Amy, thank you. We covered a lot of ground in not very much time. I appreciate you sharing so much and making the effort. I think to wrap up, want to give you space if there's anything else, like any other takeaway that you'd wanted to share that we didn't cover. And then candidly, as importantly, like where can folks find you? Like who, if they're looking for fractional, like what are you looking for? Where's ours? Like, yeah, go wherever you like.
I'm launching this winery with my family, May 1st. You can find us at tastehours.com and we'll have the website up hopefully next week, but there is a landing page. I think in terms of, I'm always on LinkedIn, please follow me, reach out if you have any questions. I think in terms of advice to marketers, just, enjoy the journey. I think so many people get wrapped up in box checking these days. And, you can miss that you're building life and you need to make sure that you're not just checking boxes, but that you're doing something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel like you have purpose. And, it's got to be more than that.
That's lovely. Thank you. And I know I'm not technically a marketer anymore, but I hear it and I feel it. And I really appreciate that takeaway.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron.
Amy, thanks again for your time.
It was nice to see you.
Hi, I'm Aaron Schwartz, co-founder and co-CEO of Orita.ai. We build AI customer segmentation for some of Klaviyo's biggest brands like Oriana, Spanx, Caraway, ThirdLove, True Classic, Run Beauty, and on and on. Brands come to us to help find untapped revenue, improve their click rate, drive away mean bots, and a bunch more. You can learn more or get a free customer engagement audit at Orita.ai.